Hello, everyone. Welcome to another beautiful live stream with Couchbase and friends. Today, we are starting a month-long focus and exploration into Hacktoberfest, the celebration of open source that's been going on for several years now. And we, in addition to Shive and I, which have been your long-standing hosts and comedy duo, on this adventure of Couchbase live streaming, we also have a very special guest with us today. So would you like to introduce yourself? Who are you?
Hi Ven and hi Shive. Thanks for inviting me. So hey folks, my name is Kartikey. I'm from India, and I worked at a company called CodeDay or basically a CodeDay Labs basically, and we are the one basically who basically doing everything for open source for high schooler community, you can say, at US basically, and I'm basically handling the open source management part over there. And yeah, this is a little bit about me. And apart from my job and something like that, I really love to contribute back to the community. So I'm a Google developer expert in ML under GenAI category, and I'm also a Google Cloud champion innovator, and yeah, something like that in that way. But yeah, that's my basic intro for that. Yeah.
It is so great to have you here. And you and Shive already go back several years. I heard that you guys are pretty, like, you're good friends. I'm like a newbie in this group, so thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
No. I think as Karthik mentioned, so we go a long way back. Both of us are organizers. So Karthik is the lead organizer. I'm the co-organizer for TensorFlow user group Durg. It's one of the cities in India, and we have been together with Google Summer of Code and just bunch of different other open source communities here and machine learning communities here in India. So like that's one of the reasons that when Karthik reached out to me that they were looking for some open source organizations to collaborate with for Hacktoberfest. I said that I didn't even think about it because being able to collaborate with other communities, especially in this kind of a scenario where we are really trying to push for and do like good activism for adoption of open source and getting more young developers to actually contribute to good open source projects is always a really great collaboration to have. So yeah, super excited for this stream and also like talk in general about Hacktoberfest and how Couchbase is kind of participating in that, and of course how we're collaborating with organizations like CodeDay Labs. Because I've met the organizer of CodeDay Lab, Tyler. I think Karthik, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah.
he. He's also like an amazing person. Probably Karthik can talk more about him, but I've met him a couple of times at PyCon US, and he like has a very pure heart and like the kind of thing that they're doing for the student developer community. It's amazing. So yeah.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah. So like
amazing. Yeah, so go ahead, Kartike.
Yeah, so as Shiva talk about Tyler. So Tyler basically is the director of basically Code Day basically. So kind of if I will split on around the Code Day split it into two pieces. One is the hackathon space, which is just purely for high schooler community. And I guess last year or last year, basically I did a hackathon at Durg basically for high schooler here. And it's basically a one of because high school because in India basically high schoolers are not getting directly involved with hackathons as such basically, but right now because of Code Day they are giving them a space more on like on the hackathon side, and simultaneously Code Day Labs came into here. So Code Day Labs for now is basically just for a US student basically, and yeah, that's the basic thing around it basically. Yeah, you can say because we are trying to basically much more into in depth in that way. So yeah, but overall the whole scenario is like we are the one because we think like if if anyone can start as early as possible if they are passionate about tech or in general open source, because open source is a way which is I can feel or I can share from my journey. Like open source is the thing which actually is a good thing happened in my career in that way if I can add on to it basically, because it always give me more and more opportunities, and opportunities not only in the sense of career aspect, learning aspect, to gain skills, to interact or network with awesome folks from around the world. Living in India, I can collaborate with many people, and yeah, and I guess Hacktoberfest is also a kickstarter of that thing basically in my journey. Like I
We're
guess
gonna get to
in
your
my
journey in just a minute. Don't jump there yet.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
excited
yeah,
and we want to build the suspense towards Kartikey's journey. So we don't want to jump right in. But before we get
sure,
right there,
yeah,
as we say every beginning of every stream, we have a lot of people joining us on different platforms, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on X. And we want to make sure you know that as you're with us, you are welcome to be part of this conversation, which means you don't have to be a lurker. You're welcome to be a lurker. You're welcome to sit and watch. We are kind of entertaining, but in addition to just watching us, you're welcome to jump in, add a comment, add a question. We want to engage with you. No question is unwelcome. Every comment is welcome as long as it's respectful and within common courtesy. And we're very excited to be part of this conversation with you. And Matt Groves, that is right. It is Hacktoberfest time. We are excited. We are all excited. So I just wanted to put that out there because I don't want anyone to think you're not welcome to converse with us wherever you are in the interwebs. Matt Groves asked a question, which I think he may be a little biased about asking this question. For those of you who don't know, Matt Groves is on the team at Couchbase, one of the rock stars in Couchbase. And in addition to being a Couchbase, Matt Groves also has his own ice cream shop. Yes, that's right. He owns an ice cream shop. My third career, by the way, tech is my second career. My third career is I want to own a bookstore / coffee shop. That's like my semi-retirement dream, is a place where I don't even need to make a profit. I just want a place to sit and read and have good coffee and make some money off of it. Like, that's the dream. Matt's living the dream. Matt has an ice cream shop. So for Matt to ask the question, what's your favorite fall ice cream flavor? I feel that's a very loaded question from an ice cream connoisseur and an ice cream purveyor. So Matt, can you tell us in the chat, what's your favorite fall ice cream flavor? I'm privy to anything basically with caramel. I don't know if that's a fall flavor particularly, but I am an avid fan of caramel as a flavor. Kartikey, what's your ice cream flavor of choice, fall or spring or otherwise?
like generally, like in India we have like a constant some specific flavor, so I go with butterscotch at that point. But like I basically can switch around in different flavors also, but like butterscotch is like a kind of a fix for me if I want to go with an ice cream in that
Butterscotch
way.
is a pretty good flavor. And Chevy, what's your favorite? And Matt's favorite is anything pumpkin, which is very
Anything
traditional, obviously.
Yeah.
Fall flavor pumpkin.
Yeah, for me, whether it's day or night, or it's summer, or it's any day of the year, for me it's always chocolate. So I'll have dark chocolate, I'll have Belgian chocolate or Swiss chocolate, whatever. Just give me chocolate and I'm good.
That's really good
So
to know
I
if we
don't
meet in person in November. I'll make sure we have a lot of chocolate around us.
I don't discriminate against any flavor. I just like chocolate.
It's funny we brought up ice cream. We just came into the country where I live for the first time, little packages of Ben and Jerry's ice cream bites. I don't know if you have Ben and Jerry's in India as a brand, but you don't, but you've heard of it, or maybe you've heard of it. It's like a North American ice cream brand. And so we've had it here for a long time, but they just sold by the container. But now they're selling these little like plastic packages of bites. So it's like little chocolate covered ice cream bites. And those are just so addictive. It's and the problem is usually addictive things I hide way up in the shelves because I'm not so tall, so I can't really reach it very easily. But you can't hide ice cream in a shelf. It needs to be in the freezer, which means it's eye level. It's right there. My hand can just reach it. I don't have to. It's not hidden. Like that's not fun. Like that it is more fun. Actually, that's the problem. It's too fun. It's that's really the issue there. Okay, that's ice cream. But I'm glad we covered that really important topic. Kartikey, I know you're wondering why you were joining us today. We're hitting the hard-hitting topics like ice cream. Okay, Kartikey, we're going to get into CodeDay Labs now. I would love for you to tell us a bit about your participation in CodeDay Labs, what you've seen from the students. They're mostly high school students. How has this helped them in their journeys professionally, being part of hackathons and open source involvement? Have you seen any particular students, one or two or a few of them, like take the journey, and what's that been like for them, for you personally to see that? Just to hear a bit more about that.
Sure. So like there are lot of students. Like basically everyone is from US, so I can't say I can directly interacted with them and like in person stuff because I never been to US. But yeah, I have a lot of great conversation with so many folks. So like I guess in the last year we collaborate with a lot of GitHub orgs basically. One of the example is like AppWrite. Like I guess last year we did a collaboration with AppWrite actually, and we see a lot of students who are really scared of code like though. So basically in code day we basically structured in a way like there are three aspects. If you are very beginner, you never did a coding, like never write a c like print function also, like that's the case basically, and you know something about it and you pretty much know about coding. And so we divide that thing in that space so that we can understand better what that particular person is really inclined towards it, and we divide our issues. Those we are like when we are finding out the issues out at GitHub, or we are reaching out to the maintainers, like we are try to give an actor kind of thing, try to build issue or maybe give a description on that basis so that they can understand, because obviously there are a lot of folks in high schooler community who's doing fabulous job in terms of maybe I can say at some level like doing better than college grads, if I can say that in that way.
You could
But
be audacious like that.
obviously
That's an audacious statement. We're going to go there.
yeah, sure. So there's a lot of, because I can't, because I and Shiva both are from ML background. We are really passionate about ML. So I really excited about the people, like students knows already about machine learning. They are building on it. They're basically doing stuff around it. Maybe it can be hackathon, or maybe it can be CodeDay Labs through by contributing to the orgs. And I really get stumbled like what I'm doing in my in my school time, like what I'm doing it, like that's the case basically, right? And so like
Basically, they shame
simultaneously it
all of us
all,
by the amount of work they do. They show us how much could be done.
yep, like this is what I feel around it. But it always basically kick me in more and more, because at the core I'm a developer only, even though even I'm managing the part, and I love development around on that aspect. So talking with them and what are the maybe issues they are facing around it, what are the things they are into, so they majorly like this is what I feel kind of a reflection of me maybe some years back around it. So this is what I feel around it. But apart from it, like talking with them if they're facing any issues around it. And obviously in code labs we have a thing called we have a mentor connect also. We basically onboard some mentors around different technical stacks, like and if they're facing any issue, there's every kind of a scrum call for like every week, just to update what happened, if they didn't do nothing, what happened wrong, so that we can help them around it. It can be from code day team or maybe from the mentor team. This is what we did. And even we can't basically force them to do every week. If they tried, that's our take, and we try to maintain that in that way. But apart from it, maybe what I can say, maybe code is now normalizing the, when we say hacking, like generally like if we say 5 to 10 years back, hacking is just related to ethical hacking kind of stuff, and maximum people in India basically think hacking in more like a ethical hacking kind of thing. But yeah, because of hackathons, like it basically streamlined in a more way. And that's what I think so power of community plays here. Tech community always this is what I feel. If you have a good technical community who basically brainstorming on some real issues, on simultaneously growing on that aspect by giving talks, it can be anyway. Like open source, even though people say open, for me open source is a concept, it's a culture basically, where everyone comes along. It's like what I feel, it's more like a hip hop culture for me basically, because they come along, they basically brainstorm, they do battling in that way. Maybe it can be competitive programming, or it can be contributing to open source, something like that. So always for me basically, if you can explain in any way, that's how you're contributing in that. It doesn't require every time you have to code, like code contribution, if we say. Like that's why
I
I guess
love what you
last year.
said, that open
Yeah.
source for you is a culture. So do you think part of the work that you're doing together with the students is actually build
Yeah.
that culture for them and introduce that culture to them?
Yep, this is what I feel like. That's what community teaches us. Like it can be if I'm not going to the, I'm going to the kind of a literal meaning of community. It can be any community. It's grow on that basically values, right? Helping each other. If you face any problem, I am here. Like I will help. I will try to help you. If I'm not able to help you, maybe I will ping someone other who knows that particular person. Like in more of like a collaboration way, right? So that's why I feel like even generally people open source tag open source with proper coding. But this is what I feel, maybe design community is also involving in open source now. Maybe if someone, maybe Figma maybe can help something in way, maybe they can contribute in Figma related project, something like that, or maybe non-code contributions also. Technical documentation contribution is now obviously adding value to it basically. So yeah, this is what I feel around it, obviously. Yeah.
That's absolutely fantastic. And I love the framing that you offered and sort of how you construct your perspective to the work that you do, which leads me, of course, to wonder how you got involved to begin with, because you probably had some introduction to the culture of open source, to the community of open source. Maybe it was through Hacktoberfest, maybe it was not through Hacktoberfest, but Hacktoberfest came in after. Like, let's talk a bit about your background, how you got involved, and why you are doing what you're doing right now.
So like while I'm in my college, I didn't know what I'm doing exactly. So I'm just going with the flow.
Like a
with
lot of
passions,
people.
basically. Yeah, like lot of people, and still I'm exploring in that way, I can say, around it. But one day I basically get introduced with a thing called GitHub version control system, and I didn't know nothing about it. So I went for a there is a near like where my college is, there is a nearby community called Facebook Developer Circle. So there is happening like Hacktoberfest, something called, I see, okay, I think like let's jump to that meetup. It's my first meetup overall at any community meetup basically. I went for there. I understood a little bit about somewhat around what is version control system, something. Okay, there's something called Git we can use around it. Then I get into the, like, I watch YouTube videos how I can start contribute. Even though on directly that meetup I just get a glimpse about what is open source or something like that. But when I keep exploring around more that part, and I guess after some months lockdown happened during that time, so I get into the more space to basically connect with a lot of larger community. Then Major League happened to me during that period where Hacktoberfest is happening around it. And I connected with Shive, a lot of folks from around the world, from India basically. And this is what I feel, the power of maybe community there. That is the turning point of my life, where I get involved with communities and open source during that time. And I basically merged my 4 PRs over during that period of time. And I see a lot of because what I think, that's what I feel like, why Git is used, what is the use of Git and GitHub, like why the version control system I can do directly with code. But during the whole process of merging 4 PRs, or like more than 4 PRs also, I understood the communication is really important. People just say like because I'm in the second, third year, I didn't know what is the power of communication during that year, period of time. But when I talked on issues with my maintainer, like this is the fix I'm doing, and this something like that, which makes me more oh yeah, really communication is really really important. It just not like soft skill is really important, but communicating really good is really important during like while talking to GitHub issues and all that basically. And during period of time, I connect with Shive as my mentor during GSOC period, where I contributed to TensorFlow.js during that period of time. And my life kind of more changed because I get mentors from that, and I connected with a lot of folks from the community during that period of time. And then I start think of, there's a lot of my juniors who not able to know what is Git and GitHub, because we have to travel to like a 1 to 2 hours to a city, our capital city, which and it's taking a lot of time for my juniors. This is what I thought, so I started my own local community basically here at my college, nearby college basically. And that's what my turning point, because again there are 2 to 3 turning points in my life during my college period. Because during that time I never be a leader, I never be a talker basically. I'm an introvert kind of, even though I'm talking too much here, but I'm a kind of introvert during that period of time. And this is what I feel, maybe if you become a leader, you have to basically, not only, it's not about you, it's about the whole community that you are represent at some level. So then I start working with them. I started session maybe 4 to 5 people and just giving talk, even though I know my first talk is really really bad. I'm not able to explain anything to them basically around open source and ML around that period of time. And then
Just if I
yeah.
can jump in for a minute, because I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your perspective on things, and how much your orientation around how you view what you do. So, for example, when you begun by saying open source is a culture, that's just a really profound thing to say. And then you started by talking about how, as you got more and more into it, you realized how important communication was as a value, and good communication, and really good ability to bring ideas together and problem solve and troubleshoot together. And then you brought in the idea of mentorship and having people in your community, and A, having community, but B, having people in that community that you can look up to who are already a bit more experienced, even if only by a bit, but a bit more experience, who have some more connections, who are able to offer some perspective, and building relationships with those people. And in doing so, you connected with Chevet. And so Chevet, connecting with Kartikey here, and you met him, and you started working together. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think what Kartikey has just kind of scratched the surface on his own personal journey and the kind of impact that he has been able to create in his own local community. Because considering that, of course, all like most of us come from universities which are either tier 2, tier 3 in the Indian terminology of universities, where you don't really get a lot of chances. But for example, like I was lucky enough to study in New Delhi, where we still have a really decently strong tech culture. But like Karthikeya, I think you had studied in Durg, right? And in in an area which is not necessarily known for tech, but still being able to create a community from scratch, a tech community from scratch, and building a rather strong one. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of commitment, and that shows a person's perspective towards like really empowering others in their community. So I think those were the qualities that I really loved when I kind of met Karthikeya. And even though like at that time he was still relatively young in terms of like his overall experience with
You're
technology
both
in general,
relatively
but
young, according to me, but we'll put that aside for a second.
No, I mean, yeah. So considering that he was still kind of learning technology, but he had that passion. So I think like that is what draws also, like when you have such kind of a positive mindset, it draws people towards you, and that's what makes you succeed as well in life. So I think like that, just as Karthikeya mentioned, that open source is a culture, and all of us have been trying to build that culture and get more people involved. And I think like these collaborations, they are a great step towards getting some of these this culture out there, and let people know that open source. And we speak about so much times that open source is not just about code contributions. Even if you're making a blog post, even if you're making a video around how to solve a problem, that's related to an open source project, that's in a way that you're making a non-code or a documentation related contribution, right? We can probably go on and just have this one stream about non-open source, not non-open source, but non-code open source contributions. So there's so much to cover.
There is so much to cover there, and talking about all the ways that we can contribute to open source that's not only code. People sometimes think that if it's not code, it's not meaningful, but meaningful and code are not synonyms. And something can be meaningful that's not code, and code, there can be code contributions that are not meaningful. And there are many open source maintainers that have war stories, essentially, the scars and the bruises of having to battle non-meaningful pull requests during Hacktoberfest that are technically code, but they're not doing anything, and there might be just literally copy and paste. I have a friend of mine who I used to work with who told the story many years ago of how he was maintaining a few repos during one Hacktoberfest, a few repositories, and there's one PR that looked really good, comprehensive, well documented, the inline code comments throughout, like really a meaningful contribution, and yet it looked really familiar. And that's because it was his pull request that somebody just copied, pasted, and resubmitted on their GitHub account to try and get credit for it for Hacktoberfest. So these things can be code as well, even if they're not meaningful contributions. Kartikey, I think we've had a good intro into sort of your journey and how you got here, and CodeDay Labs. So CodeDay Labs has students from basically around the world, right? who are participating in projects. And this year, also participating in Hacktoberfest and trying to find ways to meaningfully participate and be part of that culture and that community. That's correct, right?
Yeah, so basically, for hackathons, it's global. Like, if anyone wants to host, or we generally prefer organizers should be high schooler only, because they pretty much know the footfalls about like if any problem happened. Because maybe college students can do that, but at the end of the day, the pain points are better known by the high schooler during that period of time, because for every aspect to it. Code Labs is right now specifically for US students right now. Like, so if anyone from US or anyone from US, or a high schooler basically from US want to join, like you can definitely, I guess, go to the next cohort. This cohort application is closed now, but you can obviously definitely go to the next cohort. It will be every 3 months. There will be some cohort, every cohort basically going in that way. So obviously you can do that in that term basically. So yeah, otherwise, overall, obviously you can participate in hackathon is a great way you can do that, obviously. So yeah,
that's awesome. And so students are doing it now, so that I think it's a good moment to talk about Hacktoberfest, and let's actually dive into that for a second. So I'm going to share with you all a screen, and what you're seeing is a very large screen, and I apologize for that. Well, I don't really apologize for it. I like having it, but it's very wide. And this is that Hacktoberfest website. First step, if you're participating in Hacktoberfest, is you need to sign up by going to hacktoberfest.com, hacktoberfest.com, and you just click on the Start Hacking button, and that button will take you right to signing up. You connect your GitHub or GitLab account, and voila, you're into Hacktoberfest. To be eligible for the completion of Hacktoberfest, it involves committing 4 meaningful contributions in the month of October to Hacktoberfest. And you can see all the details in the participation link here. So first of all, everyone's welcome. Quantity is fun. Quality is key. Short-term action, long-term impact. You submit 4 high quality, and that means meaningful, useful contributions, not only code, to Hacktoberfest, to any GitHub open source repository, and you can contribute. Now, you may ask yourself, Ben, how can I find open source repos to contribute to? Well, there's a very good way to do that. And before we dive into specifically Couchbase contributions, I want to give you a bit of a hint, which is if you go to github.com and you're in the search bar, you could search for lots of things on GitHub. You can also search for labels and tags. So if you search for Hacktoberfest, search all of GitHub, and you will be able to search by issues, 57,000 issues that are open, that have the tag or related to the topic of Hacktoberfest. And then you can also label, we'll get into more, but you can also label down to, let's see here. I think you could do label good first issue, maybe. I may be doing that incorrectly, but I think, no, that worked. And good first issue as a label is a very helpful way to find specifically issues in an open source project that the maintainers thought, this may be a good entree, a good way to get involved in this open source community. So if you narrow it down to things tagged Hacktoberfest and things tagged good first issue, that is an excellent way to begin your journey. That's all good and well. But when it comes to Couchbase particularly, we have a journey for you. Do we not have a journey for you, Chevet? We have a journey for you. You can find that journey on the Couchbase blog. I think it just got posted in the comments here in the chats of all of our platforms. The Couchbase blog will take you through a bit of an epic quest through the various open source projects that you can get involved with this Hacktoberfest. So let's dive into them. The first one I want to talk to you about is Couchbase starter kits. This is a really cool project in which Chevet, myself, and others are working on currently. Chevet, what's a Couchbase starter kit?
Yeah, in a nutshell, a Couchbase starter kit is a language stack. For example, it could be in Python, Java, or even Node.js. We are having a bunch of them. where you get some sort of starter code through which you're able to use the corresponding SDK or library for connecting to Couchbase. So it's a starter project where you just get to know how do you actually make connection to a Couchbase cluster within that particular language stack. And then, of course, you can use that as a starting point to build applications on top of it. If you want to build an entire SaaS app, you can go ahead and do that. So we give you the instructions on how to just get those first baby steps towards interacting with Couchbase. And whether you're running Couchbase locally with Couchbase server or you're using the DBaaS, which is Couchbase Capella, we give you that capability. And the great thing about having good developer experience is that you don't even need to have Couchbase set up locally, or you don't even necessarily need to have Couchbase Capella signed up. Although I'll give a shout out that we have the free tier now. Do go out and make your dream projects because it's free of cost, will be perpetually free. So make your golden projects out there. But yeah, the great thing about these starter kits is that even if you don't have Couchbase set up in your local system or don't have DBaaS, we give you the capability to automatically just with the one-click button, either in Gitpod or with the help of GitHub Codespaces, your entire project, like the starter project, will be set up. Couchbase itself will be set up using the Docker image that we have for the server, and you'll be able to start using and interacting with Couchbase in a matter of a few minutes.
That was the best explanation of a Couchbase starter kit I think that is humanly possible. Thank you, Shive, for that. And that's exactly right. So a Couchbase starter kit is essentially a compact way to get going building with Couchbase in the language and framework of your choice. And we currently have out in the open Couchbase starter kits in, what do we have them in? In Spring, in Ruby on Rails, and in, what's the third one, Shive?
We have Python, so we have
Python. How do I forget Python? How can I forget such a thing? And in Python. And so in those three of them, you can, so let's take a quick look at that. So for example, in the Spring Starter Kit, Spring, for example, here we have a Spring Boot application with Couchbase integration. And essentially, all you need to do is one of two things actually to get going with this. You can either clone this repo yourself and follow the README instructions providing the various environment variable configurations. It includes unit tests as well and integration with OpenTelemetry for all of our DevOps fans. Or you can also open this up in your own developer environment container, either through Gitpod or GitHub Codespaces with one click. So if I would click on this, it would immediately open up the prompt to create a new Codespace. Containerized image of this virtually hosted on GitHub for me. And all of the starter kits offer the exact same functionality. So whether you're using Spring or you're using the Ruby on Rails starter kit, you can again go down to the README and open it up in either Codespaces or in Gitpod. And whatever language or framework you're working with, you can find all the setup, including testing, and testing integrated as well in GitHub Actions. So if we look through the Actions tab, we see we have a CI test, and it's all kind of run. Well, these are actually not the CI tests, but here's the CI tests, and this is also run, and we can take a look at the tests. If it opens, there we go, and it essentially it makes sure that it can install the dependencies and it can run the test spec file. And so it's all integrated into a CI/CD Actions workflow as well, which is pretty great. Now, what is the Hacktoberfest contribution here, you may ask? Well, the Hacktoberfest contribution is to help build these, because these are amazing resources. And the way to start is by going to the contributing guide in the starter kit GitHub organization. And the contributing guide offers a comprehensive README walking you through how to build, what the functionality should be in a starter kit, and whatever language or framework you're building in, with sample files for every aspect of it. So sample files for the workflows, sample files for the dev container, sample files for the Gitpod configuration, etc., etc. And we actually have open 9 Hacktoberfest issues. also tagged Kartikey with CodeDay Labs. That is right, tagged with CodeDay Labs to build them in React Native, in Flutter, in Swift, in C, in C++, in C Sharp, C++, C. I always confuse those two. In C, in Kotlin, Scala, Golang, PHP, and Node.js. And my friends, there's something exciting happening. We already have a contribution in the works for Node.js. So all of the issues look the same. It explains to you what we're looking to build, what needs to be the basic functionality inside your starter kit, what are the basic requirements to do so, and resources to help you get going, instructions on how to contribute. And down here, thanks to CoderCat Dev, big shout out to CoderCat Dev, we already have an open pull request to add a Node.js starter kit. That is amazing. If I had music effects, I would do a clapping music effect right now. We should all do a clapping music effect. So if you look at the pull request, it is open now. If you open a new pull request, by the way, you will follow this template, which is already there for you to try and make your life easier. Linking to the issue with the project set up, all done. And we can take a look at his contribution. So if we go to this link, and we see a Couchbase Node starter kit with everything done. I haven't yet reviewed this pull request, but it looks pretty great. It is a Node.js version. I built the Ruby one. I'm excited to look at the Node one as well. So that's our Couchbase starter kits. And we invite you to, where was I? We invite you to come into this repository, look at what the open issues are currently and get involved. Maybe you're a Go person. Maybe you happen to love Go and you would love a Couchbase starter kit in Go. Maybe you're a PHP person. PHP has come back big time in the world. And you're like, I want to contribute a PHP starter kit. We want you to contribute that as well. So that's the first place we're taking you all to, which is very, very exciting. Now, the next place we want to talk about is, where were we? We're in the blog, Couchbase Shell. Shivay, do we like Couchbase Shell?
We love Couchbase Shell over here because I know that you love Rust.
I do love Rust. Kartikey, do you like CLIs? Are you a CLI kind of person?
I think Kartikey is speaking on mute.
Kartikey, you're on mute.
Oh, so sorry. Yeah, so I am also a Rust guy basically. So
you're a Rust
like
guy.
I'm
That's
much more,
great.
yeah. So more or less Web assembly pushed me to Rust community basically. So like I am much more like a CLI guy only. Yeah, definitely.
I'm also a CLI guy. I'm a backend dev by training and primarily a Ruby developer and then also now a Rust developer. And Couchbase Shell is a fully comprehensive Couchbase CLI that you can use to do basically everything in Couchbase, Couchbase Capella, Couchbase Server, etc. And this is an example of what it may look like right from the CLI, and it's entirely written in Rust. And this is also open for Hacktoberfest. Couchbase Shell, yeah. And there is a lot of open issues that people can get involved in to work on Couchbase Shell if you happen to also be a Rustacean. There's actually 68 open issues in this repository, some of them already tagged good first issue, which means if we remember from what we said before, good first issue is a great opportunity to get involved in a community of an open source project and get your toes wet in the project and kind of introduce yourself to it. So for example, if we look at one of them, here's one good first issue. Use the default scope when there is no active scope. And it says when the active scope is not set, the prompt shows the scope as default. However, the collection commands will return an error that there is no active scope. We should make the collections commands match the behavior of the prompt and use default as a scope when none has been set. So that you can imagine this is a bit of a config setting. It's a little bit of like what the default looks like inside the shell itself. And this is open. It's open for anyone to come and contribute to in the Couchbase Shell open source repository. Let me share a link to the issues here also in the chat. And this is open not only to those who are currently involved in Rust and like developing in Rust, but also for those who want to use Hacktoberfest as an opportunity to get more involved in Rust. Kartikey, when did you get involved in Rust? Has it been a long journey for you or relatively recent?
I guess it's 2 years, I guess. 1 to 2 years, I guess.
2 years. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're now a Rustation.
You can say, because like I basically started with open source only. I didn't know nothing about Rust. There's a project from VMware, like VMware Labs, basically around WebAssembly project. I much more got into WebAssembly like through GSOC only, because I contribute to TensorFlow in WebAssembly part basically. So I started contributing as a very minor fix, nothing more or less like and like I started with Rust without knowing anything about Rust. Then I basically explored more on top of that basically. So yeah.
Did you get
I
involved in
think
the whole
everyone's
Rust?
journey kind of works like that. You start to
Yes.
contribute to a project without. I still remember like my first ever hackathon itself. Like I worked on machine learning without knowing what machine learning is. I worked with linear regression, and after that, I actually took up a formal course in the mathematics and the actual theory behind machine learning. So I
You
think
kind
like
of got involved before you even knew what you were getting involved into, basically.
exactly.
And you know, Kartikey and Shive, there's a huge Rust to WASM pipeline. It's a
Exactly.
very popular pipeline as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's only after mscripton and C++ for WASM
Yep.
that the Rust one, the Rust toolchain for the WASI32 conversion process, like I think that's the best supported as compared to some of the other contemporary languages, because as you know, like a lot of other languages are still kind of in the middle of adding more stable support to WASM, like Flutter, Kotlin. They're kind of all the new kids in the block, but C++, Rust are all of the godfather, like
Exactly.
the godparents.
Exactly. The grandparents of all of it.
Grandparents.
Exactly right. And then I want to take us to the next step on our Couchbase quest, which is 2 different IDE extensions. So when I'm personally not using a CLI, I'm inside my IDE. I happen to be a big VS Code user. I enjoy VS Code and using it with various extensions. And basically my order of preference is if I can accomplish in a CLI, check. That's my first order of business. If I can't, then I'm inside my IDE already. So that's great. I'm inside my context where I'm coding. And only last, and certainly not my favorite, is to access something by a web browser and go into like a web browser interface. So it's fortunate that Couchbase has IDE extensions for both VS Code and JetBrains. And in fact, the VS Code extension is essentially part of the OpenVSX registry. So anything that consumes extensions from that registry would work. So supports GitHub Codespaces, Google IDX, et cetera, et cetera. And both of these are also open source projects. Welcome to Hacktoberfest contributions. So let's take a peek at those. Let's go to this one. And I believe this is, yes, the VS Code extension. And you see it's actually being built on, like as of last week was the latest contribution to the main branch. And you can read the README, understand how to use it. But then in addition to how to use it, which by the way, using it is really actually, I dare say, kind of fun. It's a really like fun way to work with Couchbase. There's 48 open issues waiting for you all, my friends, to jump in and dive into, tagged by enhancements, by bugs, mostly by enhancements. Here's one called A Good First Issue, and I love this one. It's actually not so new either, but this one's pretty cool because it's an example of a non-code contribution that is meaningful.
Yeah.
Create a walkthrough of the extension. You have probably seen this. If any of you out there use VS Code and use extensions, you've probably seen this as part of the extension preview, walkthroughs of how the extension looks like. This is what we're asking for here. So in this issue, essentially build a walkthrough of what it looks like to use the extension and submit it as a pull request. That is a non-code but deeply meaningful contribution to this project. And it's been waiting for you since November 28th, 2023. Dude, my friends, that's almost an entire year waiting for you. For you, whoever you are watching, who says to yourself, Ben, Kartikey, Chevet, I think I could actually do that one. If you're saying that to yourself, if that's in your head, you are the person. It is you. This was issue number 341 has been waiting for you. So make it yours and contribute to it. And that's the VS Code extension. There's also the JetBrains ID extension as well. Very similar functionality to the VS Code extension. This one has 36 open issues. And we see also tags with different kind of labels. So some are selected for development. These are a little more, there's no necessarily good first issue tag in here yet. But if you see something that's interesting to you, that makes sense, that you feel like you can contribute to, and you happen to be a JetBrains user, please jump in and make a meaningful contribution. The last bit we're going to take a look at together is down to the Couchbase examples. Actually, I want to take us to the Couchbase ecosystem project. Couchbase examples repository is a huge organization. Examples organization is a huge org of tons of tutorial examples, tons of practical code examples of how to build with Couchbase. And there's tons, a manifold, multitude of opportunities there. But the ecosystem projects are really cool because they include things like tools and plugins and connectors for Couchbase, including the most recent one that I know of that I'm excited about, because I mentioned I'm a Ruby developer, which is the Couchbase Ruby ORM. The Couchbase Ruby ORM began as a community project by a community of customers and developers in France, led by Doctolib and other companies, and has now become an official supported ORM from Couchbase. If you're not familiar with an ORM, Kartikey, Chevet, have either of you used an ORM in any context?
So I know that we really love type ORM. I mean, I have used that.
Really used. Say it again.
I'm saying like I've used type ORM.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's like if you kind of have worked with Nest.js,
right?
So Nest.js is a framework in like that's based like Node.js, but kind of bringing a lot of similarities. If you have worked with Spring Boot, so a lot of the syntax and the way that everything is structured is very similar in the Node.js land. As we know that typically most people work with Express.js, but Nest.js brings in a lot of the different like how you have type annotations, all of those inside of Spring Boot. So it tries to replicate that inside of the world of JavaScript, and then you have a SQL ORM, which is called as the type ORM, specifically for for TypeScript and JavaScript. And you can make it work with different kinds of JavaScript frameworks, whether it's Node.js or Cordova or even like React Native. So
and you've enjoyed using it.
Yes, that I've definitely enjoyed using it. And it
because what's the benefit of an ORM? What does it essentially allow you to do as a developer?
Yeah, I think like when it comes to the developer experience, it's probably the most important aspect, that in terms of developer experience of interacting with your databases, it just provides you so many different functions, readily available functions that you can directly integrate in your entire and then when it comes to like structuring your tables, I think it just makes it a lot easier for you to be able to describe what your table structure or what your different data structures would look like. I think like that's one of the strong
That's exactly right. That's 100% trying to catch a little fly that's flying around. Don't bother me. That's 100% right, Chevet. It essentially allows you to map your database objects to objects in your code, right? And so you can now create methods to act on your data and treat your data basically as programmatically as code. Which is very helpful because you have different abstractions and different kind of concerns. You have your data in a database, you have your models and your controllers in your framework, you have maybe something else somewhere else, and it's just a lot of abstractions you have to manage cognitively. And if you can collapse that into one kind of cognitive model, i.e. you treat your database and your data documents as models in your code base. So if you have documents for blog posts, and you also have a model for posts in your code base, you can connect the two, and you can create functions or methods in your post model that mutate and interact with your database in your database, with your data in your database as your document database. And it's a simultaneously interconnected. That's just one less cognitive overhead you have to deal with, right? So we've already had for many years a Couchbase ORM for Node.js called Ottoman.js, and now we have one for Ruby called Couchbase ORM for Rails. And again, this is a great opportunity to either add more documentation, to add some examples, to talk some walkthroughs. If you are a Ruby developer, if you're interested in Ruby, look, 99.4% Ruby, that warms my heart, then this is a great place to go and build and add some more documentation, add some more to more tutorials. See, look at that. We can fix that link right there. That'd be a good example of a meaningful Hacktoberfest contribution in real time right there for all of you. We can add that as well. So that, my friends, is a bit of a tour of just the tip of the iceberg of what you can do during Hacktoberfest involved with Couchbase. There's so much, from CLIs to ID extensions to ORMs to starter kits and building out examples in frameworks and languages that you love and use. There is it's a plethora, a multitude, panoply of options, really a cornucopia of open source delights. And I really welcome all of you to contribute. So whether you're watching now or you're watching us recorded, you have the rest of this month to get involved, to start launching your participation in the Couchbase open source community and be part of the Hacktoberfest journey and adventure. Really, it would be so delightful to see you and your pull requests in there and see what you build and what you contribute. And I also want to really thank Kartikey for joining us on this conversation, and Chevy, of course. It is always a pleasure to be part of this. What do we call this? Like our happy hour together, our comic stand up. I don't know what we do, but whatever we're doing, it is always a pleasure.
Yeah, just for the future, such kind of live streams, of course, we'll be continuing this till the end of the year every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. IST, or not. Is it because now I think has the daylight saving now begun in other parts of the world? I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not entirely sure either. Where I live in Israel, daylight savings time is a little different than the rest of Europe, particularly. But it's at what we said, it was at 2 p.m. GMT, right, Kartikey? 2 p.m. GMT for you. I know you're not in GMT, but that's the time zone I gave you. 2 p.m. GMT. And then right now it's at 5 p.m. GMT plus 3, which makes sense because GMT is 2, so plus 3 would be 5 p.m. GMT plus 3, so that's a good timing. Next week on this stream, we're going to actually walk through in detail a contribution and talk through the code as our second week diving into Hacktoberfest. So this has been a bit of a conversational format. Next week, we're going to dive into code and looking at what a Hacktoberfest contribution looks like by really doing a code review live in person. So that's very exciting. And until then, thank you for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. And keep on coding, keep on joining the adventure, and participate in this month of celebration of open source. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Bye.